Is there any unexplored land left on this earth
That's never been seen by a human being.
Our guest tonight, it's time for
My brother's brother.
My brother's brother.
My brother's brother.
it's time.
My brother.
I think it's quite stunning.
Hello and welcome to My Brother's Brother. I am my brother's brother, Darren, and this is my brother, Ryan.
What's up?
Those intros.
Reporting live.
Yeah. Did you buy like a 24-pack of those backdrops or something?
What are you talking about? I'm in the studio, dude. Never mind him, guys. Never mind him. Keep rolling.
Yeah, looking good. I guess it's always worth because people listen to the show only and don't see audio or don't see video. But Ryan's got a new backdrop. This is a third one, 3 episodes in, 3 unique backdrops. This is like a news studio. It says Breaking Live. He's wearing, he's donning a hat of some sort. I don't know what that hat called.
It's an authentic Russian hat. I don't know what the official name is. It's what they all wear.
Yeah, it looks really good. Is it cozy?
It's. I actually had a buddy bring it back from Russia. It's very cozy. Super warm. I can see why they wear them.
Yeah, keeps all the heat in from the top, right?
Yeah. Yep. We need to incorporate those in Buffalo.
Welcome to the show. It's episode 3. What do you know about biocentrism?
I don't. Why don't you enlighten me?
I'll try my best. It's a heady concept, and I'll just give it to you in kind of the broad strokes. But the idea, and I think we've touched on this in a previous episode, we all, I think we could agree, basically exist in our own realities. You know, like I think this color behind me is beautiful. You think it's not beautiful. That's a different reality already. We have different opinions and sets of beliefs. Biocentrism posits that the reality of our consciousness is that is what's creating our reality. And so I had a hard time understanding it, but I think in a good way. So the idea that if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. That's kind of one idea of kind of consciousness. Now, biocentrism posits that there is no tree falling in the woods if nobody's there. And so basically another way to look at it is a video game, you turn it on and you turn it off. And so if there's no player playing the game doesn't really exist. And so we create reality only by our consciousness. And so I guess what it goes further into is if we removed all consciousness from this planet, that nothing would really exist because there's no observer there. There's no one there to actually observe it. So is it reality?
I mean, that's so deep because you have to define consciousness.
Right.
We're not even at that stage. Nobody can do that. That's one of the greatest mysteries in life. So how do you wrap a theory around consciousness if we don't even know what it is? I mean...
Right, and why...
Why would that alone create our realities?
Yeah.
So if you're not... That's a tough one.
I know. It's a frustrating concept. But I had a surgery a few years back, and I went under anesthesia. And the surgery was performed. And the surgery, if I was conscious, would have been painful. I would have understood and received that feedback from my body and felt that pain. Now, since there was no consciousness, there was no pain. And so just the idea of what consciousness is an awareness that there just doesn't seem like there's anything outside of our own consciousness. I'm not making any fucking sense with this because like you said, we're diving into a really just a depth of the pool that neither of us can really understand.
Yeah, I've thought about consciousness a lot through the last couple of years, especially with new technologies coming out that are similar to the movie Chappie. I know I always reference movies, but
it's okay. It's a relatable place.
Have you ever seen Chappie?
I did, but I don't really remember it. It's about
excellent movie. Highly recommend. It's got a great group. It's the main stars in it.
Why don't you name some of the actors? Because I'm sure you'll get all their names perfectly.
Well, I bet you I pronounced this one right. D'Antwoord. Okay, it's spelled Die-Antwoord, but most people pronounce it wrong. They're a South African group that are known for the Zeph movement. I'm going off a tangent here, but they're the main stars. And I'm not going to screw their names up. The lead actor's Ninja, and his wife is, I think, Valletta. But anyways, the movie's about and Hugh Jackman's in it.
Nice.
Did I get that one right?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, they create these like humanoid robots, but they're all controlled through computer programs. And then one of these scientist type guys winds up with a breakthrough, and through computer programming, he's able to create a sentient, conscious, I don't know what you would call it, life form within the computer. And then they transfer that over to one of their working robots that's like a security robot that's just pre-programmed, and then it has consciousness. But it's kind of wild when it takes form. It's like a baby, so it doesn't understand the world that is around it. So when they insert this so-called consciousness program into this robot and they turn it on, it immediately goes into the shadows and hides, and is like very skittish and scared of all of its surroundings because it's unfamiliar with everything. It's like a baby just being born into the world, but it's able to learn at a super fast pace. So, it's kind of funny in the movie. They teach it all these bad things and how to rob banks and stuff like that. But you start to have feelings for this thing because you can see that it becomes aware of itself. And in the movie, its battery was damaged, so it only has a lifespan of 5 days. And that's a pivotal point in the movie. It becomes aware that it's going to die. And so it doesn't want to. And then you're in this conundrum because in the movie you have these antagonists that treat it bad, and you almost feel bad for it. But it's a machine, But I'm going to give away the spoiler because I really don't care. If you didn't see the movie, it's old enough. Too bad. Yeah, but at the end of the movie, the creator of the consciousness program, Chappie's aware of its creator. He gets shot and he's dying. So Chappie finds a way to use this like a Neuralink type headwear, and they take the creator's consciousness, upload it in a computer, which we talk about doing today, which is being talked about doing today with Elon Musk, and he transfers his consciousness into another security robot, essentially another Chappie, and they turn it on, and boom, he comes to life, and it's him, and he's like looking down at his arms, wondering what he is. He's not understanding what's going on. But then he finally realizes that he's now a robot, and they take off running, and that's kind of the end of the movie. But it showing that they can, what is consciousness? Is it you? Is it your soul? Is your personality? Who knows? I don't
Well, I
know.
mean,
Does
yeah, I think
everything have consciousness?
that's a good kind of a metaphor to put it in an object and then to destroy that object. And then is that consciousness still a thing because it no longer has a vessel? And I think that's, that's the $1 million question for existence is, does our consciousness live on after our vessel is no longer here? And I err very, very heavily on the side that this is just one thing that our consciousness gets put into this body, and it gets to have, whether it's like repeated as another human or like, getting into have all these karmic experiences of being an ant or a cricket or I don't know. That's where you asked if other things have consciousness, like a tree. Consciousness, the way humans think about it, no, but a consciousness of awareness that it needs to live on and propagate and spread its seed, I guess, that's still another form of consciousness. I mean, it doesn't.
But is it? That's
Intelligence.
not really propagating and planting your seed. That's just
automatic.
yeah, that's just in the DNA. That doesn't find consciousness. There's some scholars out there that believe that everything's conscious, including rocks. That consciousness comes from the universe, and it's one. You ever hear of the Acacia records?
Yes, but I don't know much about them.
It's like I don't know a ton about it either, but it's
This would be
supposedly
good.
no, it's supposedly a vast system of knowledge that starts from the beginning of human history and is basically collected somewhere in the ether, and that consciousness pulls from that, and you can tap into this Acacia records, and that's what some people are able to do. And I don't know what they're able to do remote viewing, or I don't know what it's tied to, but it's a belief that all consciousness in the universe is in one big like database,
Right.
and some people are able to access it and some people aren't, but we all are like, it's downloaded to us. I guess that's the simplest terms, is to like use a computer analogy. It's like downloaded to the vessel. I like the way you put it, like to a vessel of some sort.
Yes.
And then you have some cultures that believe in reincarnation, and there are some weird cases, and I don't have specific names, but where, and these are really studied. I mean, there's proof and documents backing it all up, but where they'll have a 12-year-old girl give specific examples of like a pilot in a plane during World War One, and talk about an injury and what she. I mean, this girl's like 12 years old. Is that someone being reincarnated into her? You know what I mean? And there's other examples of.
She's a liar. She's a liar.
Well, that's a pretty good liar to make up specifics because, these are details. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. And it's just weird because it always seems like the reincarnation thing remains on the same timeline. So the fact that she's having a memory of someone that lived in the same kind of millennia as her, it always seems like it kind of just stays within that. And I don't know that helps the theory or hurts it, but that we don't ever really have, I guess people say they're like reincarnated of Cleopatra or Napoleon or something like that. But it's just, I guess you just say, like you said, it's all a collective consciousness. It's all just from one source, and you're maybe taking like a string and you're attaching it to one vessel and to another vessel, and then when that vessel dies, the string goes and gets a cord, I guess, wire gets plugged into another one, and it's all just being pulled from the same source. And I think that's collectively what spirituality is like. We are all one, we all are the same. I'm you, you are me, that kind of thing. That what the system tries to do is make it so we don't feel that way. We don't feel connected, and we are fuck you, fuck my neighbor, and I'm doing all for self here. And so it's
exactly.
I have a hard time being like, I'm you and you are me. Like that never really resonates with me.
Well, it resonates with 5 grams of mushrooms.
I don't know. It's funny because I don't ever feel that connectedness.
No?
Not with everyone else. I could feel it with I guess with the fabric, where like the closest I've ever gotten to understanding what God is in a psychedelic situation is it's never appeared to me as white man with beard. It is a fabric. It is like the kind of the closest analogy, and it falls short because it's way more abstract than this, but like the code that springs down in the matrix, the green code that happens where it's just like embedded. And that's another thing around biocentrism, is that idea of if the consciousness is gone and we're not viewing the mountains and the trees, then it all just reverts back to code. And so the only reason it becomes a tree and a mountain is because of the observer having that experience with it. Again, fucking so far out there.
Doesn't that relate to the simulation theory, though? That's very similar, where it's like a video game. What's in front of you, in front of your eyes, is rendered. What's behind you doesn't exist anymore. There's nothing there. But when you turn around, it exists because you're rendering it with your eyes, and that's the same thing with the tree. And, you're not there to see it, so it's not happening,
Yes.
But, then that goes into other mysteries like falling asleep and dreaming. What's that? You know what I mean? What's going on there? When you're asleep, that's weird in itself. Like
Sure is.
that our bodies just have to shut down and go into a dark place and lay on something for 8 hours and be the most vulnerable position ever. Some people. I mean, it is, when you think about it at a core level, it's very weird. You know what I mean? It's like
I'm not vulnerable. Regarded.
I mean, don't you think it's weird? It's like,
Well,
you're hyper aware all day, and then at a certain point you need to like turn in for 8 hours, during the night.
Well, I think from a if you're going to take it again, if we can just correlate it all with like machines or programming or anything that kind of we have a reference to, powering down is to recharge a battery to then let the vessel have the energy it needs to thing. And then on a psychological level, the idea that is a place where I don't think you're egoless, but your other facilities that don't need to come online when you are awake, all these kind of abstractions, and you're like, why did my 3rd grade teacher show up in a bikini in my dream? Like, you're allowed to have this kind of like more abstract thing, and within that there is processing and if you have a dream that you feel really good when you wake up, then you process something in your more vulnerable state that was allowed to happen, where when we're awake, we're just like we're too plugged in, we're too aware, and we're not. That's why I think meditation, it's akin to dream. It's akin to sleeping. Close your fucking eyes. Like, there's a lot of information coming at you when you are awake. That's why, like, when I take mushrooms, I blindfold myself, because I'm like, the eyes don't matter in that situation. We're going inward here, where this sense, this eyes, I'm only seeing what's in front of me. Like, this isn't relevant in this experience right now. And so the same thing with dreaming is like, you're getting a lot more ability to process stuff that you just can't do when you're awake and you're at work and you're like, I can't think about shit like I can when I'm sleeping.
What are you processing now? The day?
Your day, yeah, your all the things you've experienced that day, all the things you've experienced in many lifetimes, all the ways that you, unless you're, I think, yeah, I mean, I think there is a direct correlation between meditation and sleeping. Like, meditation is the conscious choice throughout the day to close your eyes and be like, I just need to, like, let my mind run and have its way and let it kind of do what it needs to, without me feeling like I'm needing to be in control. Because when we're awake, we're always trying to control the scenario. Or like, we're mad at someone in front of us in traffic, or we're having a reaction to our outward environment, where when we close our eyes, we're having an internal experience. I think it's beneficial. I mean, yeah, it is. I don't know that I think there is no definitive reason, quote unquote, why we sleep, but we fucking do,
What did you think about the tank, the sleep deprivation tank we did years ago? Did you think that let you meditate quickly and relax and get into the zone?
There were some circumstances that made it a little difficult. Ryan and I went up to Canada.
Oh, here we go.
We don't get into our personal lives too much on this show.
I know. If you want to quickly take a tangent off, go ahead and explain it.
So
it was very bizarre.
Yeah, this is like, I don't even know, fucking 15, 20 years ago or something like that. But weed was accessible in Canada to a very easy degree at the time. And so we drove up to Toronto, which isn't far from where we lived at the time. And we went to what is that, like a cafe or something? And we had some milkshakes, and they were fucking potent. And we left the place, on a different level. Showed up at the place where the guy was going to administer or allow us into the tanks. He offered a equine massage as a little bonus. I didn't know at the time what that even meant. And it was weird. He had to like show up and like let us in because it was kind of late. And he let us in and to a small room, and there was a massage table. And Ryan, I don't remember who went first. Maybe I went first and laid down, and Ryan was in the same room. It's just small, and it's just like, we shouldn't be confined in that space to such an intimate thing. And he pulls out the equine massager, and this motherfucker, equine, for those who aren't familiar, like I wasn't at the time, means horse. It was a horse massager. It was huge. And he's giving us back massage and going down and working on the glutes for a while.
Wait, not us. You.
Yeah, not together. Right. Did you? Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to implicate yourself. I got an equine.
There's no implication. I didn't get it done. I just want to be clear here. We're not implicated on it. I skipped that part after I saw you getting it done. Continue. Continue.
Get me in the tank. So anyway, we get the massage, and then he leads us up to the tank. And I guess, there's only one.
Could I just stop you? Please. I'm sorry. You're skipping a vital part here. The man concentrated the entire massage on your ass with the horse thing. He went down your back once.
They hold a lot of tension in their butt, and they need their ass worked out.
Okay, continue.
I don't think there was anything fishy with it. I mean, maybe.
That was weird. That was very weird.
So
Diddy vibes.
To your question, I was just too high to drop into the space. I was too aware, which is what I think weed can benefit in a way of having a level of awareness where then I'm thinking about everything. I'm thinking about, which is not impossible to drop into a meditative state on weed, but I just was like blitzed. And also I think I had a hard time. Anyway, it's boring. To answer your question, I've done a second one since then. So I've had two sensory deprivation tank experience, and both times I struggled with them. The other one, there was a temperature issue and stuff, but I mean, that to me is like, I know I haven't, and I would love to have a psychedelic experience in that, because again, to my point of like blindfolding, cut that sense out. You don't need to see anything. You don't need to really feel anything. Again, we're going inward here. We're going into consciousness, to the depths. Right. We're plugging into the collective consciousness. This body should not matter. And so to have an assisted situation where you're tapping into the collective consciousness, which is without this vessel, which is, I think, what, when I go on psychedelics, I'm like, this is probably what it's like when I'm going to be dead. Like I'm completely unaware of my body, anything that's happening with it. And it's a purely mental or conscious experience. And so I think that's an incredible asset to have. I just haven't had one.
Yeah, and we're energy at the core level, and energy, according to physics, never ends or dies. So it's
Yep.
got to go somewhere else and transfer. I think it gives me a little bit of peace of mind knowing that consciousness, could potentially, like you said, it's just in a vessel. But if this vessel dies, maybe that goes somewhere else. I mean, we
Definitely.
live on.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wonder if just the act of. So are you actually is consciousness actually being born at an infant stage? When does consciousness occur? That's a very
Well,
deep question. It's a little sensitive.
it's a big debate.
I don't want to go
Uh,
down that road, but it is an interesting question. Like, as soon as one cell appears, is that consciousness? Like,
no, I think
when does it enter the
well,
vessel?
I mean,
When is
yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's Tibetan. I think there's like a 21 day. There are numbers that people put to it, and for various like degrees of certainty, they say this is when, and like you said, that's I think a big reason why it's a big hot debate. But I think that the vessel forms before the consciousness gets in. I think probably
okay?
forms for a while, where again it's not ready for the consciousness, it's not ready for the experience, because why would you put consciousness into a cell when the cell's not really necessarily having an experience? It's not until you've given it the capacity, which is what this human experience is to have hands and to have
Okay.
move around and stuff like that. And so
So
I would say that it's planted at a point when the body is more formed. Yeah, I don't know where that
yeah, and
puts me in the debate, but
well, no, it's just because it leads me to then, if reincarnation exists and consciousness is transferred from one vessel to another, where was the start of the consciousnesses? Like, if they're just being
right.
rotated from vessel to vessel, and we just talked about that 12-year-old who potentially, was reincarnated by a World War One veteran, and you
Yeah.
just carry that on and you keep going. Is it the start of humanity? Those select, I mean, the very first humans on Earth started
Right. Well,
conscious.
that's where it
Like,
gets into this like
did it
very
come
human
from?
centric. Yeah, exactly. Because we only take the realm of human consciousness as being
Right.
like, oh, that must have been the start of it, and I don't think I don't think that that's fair. I mean, it goes up against some of the ideas that you have, but if you go further back in time, there were other living forms, and that the higher the consciousness maybe evolved, that maybe it evolved alongside of the evolving nature of the vessel, and then it was able to have more complex experiences. Because if you think about consciousness in like a slug on the ground, is that still conscious? It has to be, because the
Yes.
slug has to be conscious to its environment and make the right decisions, and then lives on or doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. It is a fucking hard one for sure, because it does kind of have a human quality to it, just
And if you
inherently.
can't identify it in yourself, how would you identify it in other things? It's like that's not to go off on a tangent, but with the consciousness thing, when it comes to vegans and vegetarians, it pisses me off because I'm sorry, but like their argument when it comes to ethical behavior, it's all, I've had this argument with other people, but it's like, I don't eat meat because of ethical reasons. Those poor animals are conscious, and I don't agree with it. Why do you think that plants aren't? Because they don't move fast and they just sit there. If you do a time lapse
Hmm.
photography on a plant, dude, it's creepy. Look at some of these plants, the way they behave, especially vines and stuff. I mean, they're grabbing things. They can
Hmm.
defend themselves. I mean, science, just recently I read an article where it stated that they do believe that plants are in a state of consciousness, and they have they meet all the requirements. I mean, they can
Yeah.
defend, they can communicate, they can do all these things. They just do it at a very slow rate. So when we observe it, it just looks like a stupid tree,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. And
it's
it's doing all
really
the right
not.
things to survive. It's doing all the things it needs to carry
Correct.
on its consciousness. I'll tell you, I mean, anecdotally speaking, you talked about the sharing the kind of oneness with humanity, or the oneness with everything in a psychedelic space. I have had times where I'm deep in a ceremony or a situation where I'm just like gone, and I'm egoless, and I'm dropped in, and I relate more to a plant in its stillness, and go, the plant is not needing to think about anything other than just the present moment. And like you
Existing.
said, that's why I can move slow and do it what it needs to. And I've had that, like, where I like, I mean, I can like feel it in every cell of my body, of just like, if you are right here in this moment, you will feel this like orgasmic presence of like, holy
They
shit, because all we're
pause.
ever doing is thinking about what's coming and what happened before, and we're not in this. And like that's when you get to that moment of like, it's like, and there's nothing other than that moment. And then I start thinking about it, and then I'm no longer in that moment. But yeah, I mean, a plant for me, I think very much has consciousness. And yeah, you're right. There's no ethical. You can't be clean ethically living on this planet, and no other animal is thinking like, oh, I shouldn't eat that gazelle because that gazelle has consciousness. No, we need to survive.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you're gonna end consciousness by just being conscious.
You're gonna what?
You're gonna end other consciousness by you if you want to carry on your consciousness. Like you got to kill a plant or you got to kill a cow.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, if we believe in it transfers, you're just transferring it, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
You're setting it free.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, as a 12-year-old, a little liar. Yeah. I think that there's no way to be, in this ethical high ground as a human. And the irony, the hypocrisy that people spout, like somebody gave me some shit the other day. I posted about doing a collaboration with this big clothing line, and someone's like, I don't support that brand because they contribute to the Republican Party and because they do this and because they do that. And I'm like, do you know you're telling me all these virtuistic things that you feel through a device that wasn't made very ethically?
No, that's true. People
You know
don't
what I
think.
mean? Like, come to my house and tell me that to my face. Don't tell me through an iPhone that was made by, little Chinese hands.
Yeah, well, you pick and choose what battles they want to fight, and again, it's all ridiculous. You can break everything down to a point of ridiculousness.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to save the planet, kill yourself.
No, that's not the answer.
I'll just say I'm using that as a statement.
Save it from what? Save the planet from what? Nothing's even happening. All of it's bullshit. There's no overpopulation. The ozone layer's not depleting. Remember that one? Oh, the ozone. Stop spraying hairspray. Dude, it's ridiculous some of this stuff they come up with. You don't remember? Go back in time and remember some of these things.
I do.
Remember the hole in the ozone?
Uh-huh.
What happened to that? Just healed? And then it's the glaciers are melting and the polar bears are dying. It's always something. The Earth is fine. The Earth will always be fine.
Yeah.
It's us that's the problem. We're the virus.
Yeah.
Kill
yourself.
Didn't they say that in the Matrix? No, you don't kill yourself. You make yourself better. You vaccinate.
Well, we teased a little bit of a topic last week, and I know there's at least one listener who's wanting to hear, speaking of just this kind of deception around the way that the fucking powers that be create these narratives and do things like the idea of like in a hole in the ozone layer, there was an agenda there, right? I mean, to do what? To put more regulations on corporations or to imply that that's what the corporations always do. They're like, you guys got to stop spraying hairspray in the sky while they're the ones making hairspray and pumping smokestacks full of that shit into the sky. So anyway, agenda-based ideas that anything that we can look at as being told that we're doing something wrong is an agenda. So I'm beating around the bush here. Nuclear weapons or nuclear bombs or nuclear power, that's the topic where I want to hear all about, and I want to try to pull it apart.
Oh, it's really about the bombs themselves, the nuclear bombs. There's a lot of bullshit. Once you get to the ultimate level of flat Earth, you can start backtracking to other things and realize it's all lies. It's all propaganda and lies used for control and money. And again, I know these issues are hard for people to get into, understand, because you're going to believe the world that was presented to you. That's just the reality of it. And it's hard for people to break those beliefs when they go on 20, 30, 40 years and all of your peers believe the same thing. You don't want to be that outlier that's looking like a weirdo or conspiracy theorist. That I think it's becoming more popular though to be okay. It's okay to be that way, but you can attest that I go way back.
Oh yeah, OG conspiracy theorist.
Right? Come on.
Sure.
Before
you
it became
as soon as you came out, you were like, "This is all bullshit."
I don't believe nothing.
Nope.
And I'm being proven right every day. It's like, so going on to the this is a hot topic with a lot of people, but I believe Rogan even touched on it recently in a very loose way, but it all starts with the videos. Okay, remember the videos, the famous videos that were all shown with the trees that are, what happened back when they were doing those type of things. TV had just come about. They still had black and white footage and radio. And remember, I had talked about that. Those forms of media were created and controlled by the powers that be, the alphabet the alphabet organizations, they use that and they weaponize it. I mean, that's the reality of it. I mean, that's exactly what they do. So, they can easily put something on the television, and again, in those times, if it was on the TV, it was real. I mean, that's the old joke. How do you know it's real? It was on the TV. I mean, now we know that there's fake media, and the internet has broken down a lot of doors and allowed a lot of people to use resources that weren't available to them back then. I mean, we didn't have the computer software and the ability to take video footage and just break it down to a level of scrutiny that on a forensic level, the average person couldn't do that. So when they would film these things back then, they never thought about or they couldn't foresee what was going to happen in the future.
They didn't see you coming.
Well, not just me. We got a whole army of me, and they're out there, and guys keep pushing forward. But, it's a truth movement. That's really what it boils down to. It's not a flat earther. We're not conspiracy thieves. We're truthers. That's really what you should label it. Okay. Truth. It's a truth movement. But where was I? So going back
forensic, picking apart the footage, the propaganda.
Yeah. It's, the footage itself is really, it's wild when you look at it because it's models. I mean, the people that are listening and, when you get some time, just go on YouTube and look at some of that footage. There's people that commentate over it and they break it apart. There's so many things that are just wrong. It literally looks like models. The cars blowing over, the houses, the famous footage of things just, that would be like a backdraft and then all of a sudden everything would blow away. And then there's a point that a lot of people make is, okay, these explosions were megaton explosions that were just, vaporizing houses, yet the camera's perfect. I mean, didn't they had to clear miles and miles away for these things to be detonated, but these cameras, A, the radiation's not affecting the film, and B, there's no movement of the camera. With an explosion that powerful, you should see some shake. I mean, they didn't have image stabilization in 1943. I don't believe they did. So, it's one of these things where the cameras itself prove it's wrong. I mean, you could just go back and people that are professionals in that field will attest to it, that shouldn't have been able to be filmed. And there's a lot of footage like that is laughable. One of the things that people notice is that in any of the mushroom clouds or the explosions that are shown on video, there's always cut scenes. There's never one live from detonation to full mushroom explosion. There's always a cutscene where they'll pan over to the observer and everybody's covering, don't look into that was one of the things. Don't look into the blast. How convenient, right? We don't want anyone looking at it because we don't want them to know what's really going on. So don't look at it because it's going to blind you. I mean, dude, you can go down a list. Get under your chair at school. Were you old enough are you old enough? Did that happen at your school?
Yeah, I was born in 1953.
No,
we didn't.
They did that later on.
I don't think so.
No? When did that stop?
Probably the Cold. Well, I guess it probably might have been the late 70s, early 80s because of the Cold War. I think that was the big part of it. Yeah.
So, I mean, but don't you think that's ridiculous too? We're talking about a bomb that they show on film that can decimate, literally square miles of cities, vaporize them. But getting under your desk, that's going to save us. I mean, they literally told you to.
Yeah, but don't you think that could be part of the governmental response to something that they don't have a solution to, and in order to quell the fears of people, you go just get under your desk, that's the best we can do. Other than you're fucked,
Yeah, but then that shows how stupid people are, and you're sheeple. I mean, come on, you're gonna just it's like just going along with it. The powers that be tell you to do it. And just going back to some of the things about other than just the video footage. It's the sheer engineering that takes when you start looking in. I used to be really interested in that stuff, just how nuclear bombs work and what is it? Is there a timing mechanism? And and then when you get into the other details, like the amount of material they needed for the bombs. Did you see the propaganda movie Oppenheimer that was released with Celius?
Hold on a second. Go on. Who?
The propaganda movie Oppenheimer with
with
Celius, what's his name? Celius Murphy.
Right.
I got it.
Nope.
Okay. Cillian.
Yes, I think it's actually Killian, but yeah.
Killian Murphy, a nice Irish lad. Anyways, what's going on back there?
I was getting like all my light was disappearing. I gotta turn.
I thought you were getting raided there for a second.
I did see that movie, yeah, and I always appreciate when you can just call something out like propaganda.
I
So
mean, come on.
that is still what perpetuating the idea that there was ever a Manhattan Project, that all of that was just.
It's the same thing as NASA. They saw a way to get funding and loads of money pouring in. I mean, that Manhattan Project in today's money was billions.
Right.
And you just throw a lab coat on. We need another 50 million to get these molecules working. Oh, we need another, 60 trillion to get this bomb going. And then, when you start looking at things like, the fact that again, the material shortage, even in the movie, they talked about that. Remember, they were filling the marbles in the jar to simulate how much, what was it, plutonium they needed, and they just had enough. But yet they have all these other, hundreds, and now they have stockpiles of thousands of bombs that are loaded up, and in all these different countries. And then people will argue the Hiroshima, Nagasaki, those were fire bombs. Okay, a mushroom cloud itself does not mean directly that it's a nuclear bomb. They're stacks of TNT. You can get a mushroom cloud from a big enough explosion, the traditional way. You don't need it to do it in a nuclear way. So, and then, again, back then, everything's perspective, and these things looked ginormous. I mean, the one out in the Pacific that they filmed, remember the famous one with the battleships out there? Again, all models or actual explosions that took place that, where they were filming them and how they were filming them gave it the perspective that they were a lot larger than they actually were. Very easily.
Hold on. Pause. This is going to be something that some people have never ever heard of, that there are no nuclear weapons. So let's just take a second here.
Okay.
And let that sink in. I only very recently even heard the concept. I never, and to your point, never questioned it. Never even thought why, because it's always, like I wouldn't question it because I wouldn't think there would be a reason to. Now I'm going to side with you in the fact that I think this one feels especially motivated to make happen now, that a time when the Cold War was happening and tensions were on the rise, and whoever was going to be the biggest and baddest to come out of that. I can see that. And I was knowing that we were going to talk about this. I was, thinking, well, fucking, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Like, what do you have to say about that? And even just you saying that, like, yeah, a firebomb, enough explosives could simulate it. I'm more on board with this theory than I am with most of the other ones. So
really,
yeah, because I mean,
I'm surprised
because it does hold a fuckload of power to say, I got some of these, don't fuck with me, and the other one's like, I got some too. All right, well, don't fuck with me. Like, it makes sense for sure. Yeah.
And with the state that when you look at like the powers that be and how the media portrays us, that we're at each other's throats,
Yes.
U.S. versus Russia, North Korea versus this country, and some of these have nuclear weapons, yet we've all just mutually decided no one's going to use them. You don't think a country by now would have used them? I mean, we've had policies in order to not use gas, and which is ridiculous. I just think war in itself, to have rules in a war is insane. But
to your point of not saying why isn't anybody use it, I mean, the term mutually insured destruction is that one person does it, another person can do it, we're all dead. And so, I mean, just out of self-preservation, that seems like a good reason to not do it. But I guess, also serves your point as well.
So these powers that be and these elites would create a device that can literally destroy the world. What are they going to do?
Well, I mean, again, it's enough. The idea of it is enough to make sure that nobody fucks around too hard.
Okay, so the idea, so you can sell an idea a lot cheaper than you could to experiment and actually build a working bomb, right? It's a lot easier to propagate and sell a lie. It's a lot cheaper, a la NASA, right? I mean, isn't that what they're
going with that? Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, it's very easy to do, like you said. You create these model explosions. You pump out this Manhattan Project. You compartmentalize it. You get everybody and their uncle working on it. You have them. An interesting thing I just want to bring up when you start looking into the test test explosions that they did over the Pacific and in other areas. They would have during these nuclear tests, they would have what's called and you can look this up, a comparison explosion, where they would take hundreds of crates of TNT and they would put it on this platform that was raised up, and they would actually scatter radioactive material around the site before they would explode these. And they would have, let's say they would have a group of army guys over on, or naval people on this area watching the comparison explosion. And on the other side, they would say to these guys that are at the comparison explosion, okay, you're going to look over there. Don't look right into it. The nuclear bomb's going to go off over here shortly. We're going to observe it. Everybody stay low, blah, blah, blah. They'd say to those people over there, they would have an equally set up TNT explosion platform just like this area over here. And they would say to those guys, we're going to do the nuclear explosion over here. You guys just keep low, look the other way. So both sides would think, oh, we're looking at they don't know what they're looking at. Nobody knew what they were looking at. You know what I mean? And then saying look away, and then the radiation and these comparison explosions, it just it convolutes everything, and it creates, these, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. But I'm lost for words here, but help me out here.
Well, I don't know what word you're looking for, but I think I think that it just, I want to play on both sides of the fence here and say that I think it's very legitimate, because for this one, I think more than the money thing, like with NASA, that one is just like, it's not unbelievable to believe that there would be this kind of just fabricated governmental institution that just purely wants to just take money in through taxpayer dollars. That's not totally unbelievable, but it's huge. That's a huge implication to be like, this is purely for money. I mean, maybe there's some other reasons that we could kind of find for NASA wanting to try to be legitimate, but for the weapon thing is just like the idea to have created something that then the world fears. But it is interesting. That's where I agree. But then I always question, because I think, well, then if we did that, then did Russia go, yeah, we did that too?
Yes.
And everyone else is like, yeah, we did it as well.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Antarctic Treaty where they're all in on it. You can't call the bluff of one country. They all, they fool the people within it. Again, it's a control thing. It's a scare. It's a fear-mongering thing. It generates money. There's a lot of reasons behind it. But, yeah, once one country's in, Russia can say the same thing. What's the U.S. going to call them on their bluff? They're lying, too. It's like we all got to kind of hold the lie here. I mean, when you start looking into the countries, who are nuclear power holders? U.S., Russia, France, Pakistan, right? China, India. Do you know of any other? Supposed? Well, I'm just saying, it's like, and they have a shelf life, so all these things are just sitting in some missile bay, and we're just, waiting one day to just use them. What's the point? I mean, it's just easier to sell a lie.
It is, yeah. No, I'm agreeing with you on this one. Fully into it.
And let me ask you this: if somebody were to let's just play devil's advocate, if somebody were to question this, and then you ask them, well, tell me your truths and your proofs. Why do you believe they exist? What do you think they would say? Argue with me.
Yeah.
Why they do exist? Why do you think a nuclear bomb exists?
As I do, when my preparation for the show begins, is I go to ChatGPT and I say, my brother's about to tell me. It's just the quickest. It's a superpowered Google search.
All right.
But you can actually be a little bit more personal with it. I think that the Nagasaki and Hiroshima, which, like you just very quickly pointed out, that there's just other ways to do that. There's other ways to do incredible destruction non-nuclearly. I think that would be something that you could easily shoot down. I'm trying to see what what you said is just like, because I was told.
Right. And then you get into stuff like after the bombs, they talk about nuclear fallout and how an area is going to be untouchable and they can't grow vegetables, and it's going to be a dead zone for the next 100,000 years, and you got to stay away from it. But Japan weirdly enough, has the longest life expectancy, one of the highest life expectancies of any culture around, but they had 2 nuclear bombs dropped on them. That in itself doesn't make sense. And then when you talk
Yeah, that's
about
true.
radiation burns, people argue with radiation burn. They can be attributed to super hot heated levels of a fire bomb. And these fire bombs had other ingredients in them. You know, it wasn't just gasoline. There's other ingredients that could cause those injuries. You know, everything that's attributed to a nuclear bomb could easily be attributed to just a standard conventional bomb. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, the Moab, the mother of all bombs. If you watch on YouTube that being exploded, that's a modern day bomb. It's called a Moab. It produces a mushroom cloud and it looks identical to a nuclear bomb. I mean, I'm not arguing that we don't have an arsenal of super powerful bombs that could take out city blocks. I just don't think they're at a nuclear level. I don't think atoms are being smashed together and a chain reaction happens. I mean, when you watch Oppenheimer or you listen to the story, they thought that they were going to disintegrate the atmosphere and
Right.
destroy the world,
Right.
but they were okay with that? Like, that just seems, you know, come on. I understand there's insane people out, but these are the people we elect and put in power and allow to run these programs. I mean, when you watch Oppenheimer from a different perspective, that guy was a nut. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that he's okay with that. Well, you know, there is a chance the atmosphere is going to burn up and everyone's going to die. Psh, hit the button. Let's see what happens. Dude, that's insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing over there. Come on. They're just launching conventional bombs and they're feeding the world a lie to create fear mongering because that creates control. You know what I
Well, I
mean?
mean, if this one, with this one out of all of them, the idea of creating fear, at least there's some level of comfort in thinking that there are no nuclear bombs. Because I know that hopefully not too many people live daily lives of like under the fear that someone's going to launch a nuclear attack and we're all going to die. But to alleviate and be like, you don't have, that's one thing you don't have to worry about at this point. Like, you know, that's not true.
I never was worried about it because if a
Yeah.
nuclear bomb hits, supposedly if they were real, it's over in a second. You're supposedly vaporized. You don't. There's no warnings or anything. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that's not something I ever lived in fear of. I know there was a time when our parents go back and they had no nukes
Yeah.
protests.
Yeah.
Remember, and
Yes.
people were living in fear of that. You know, and it was a great tool they used to their advantage, and it seemed to work, and it carries on today with nuclear programs and you
So the
know.
idea of that there is nuclear energy in your mind, that there is a capacity or a capability of smashing atoms together to generate power or energy.
I don't know.
Ooh,
I don't know. I don't
really?
know. I don't know. I don't know, man. I think that's hogwash. That's my opinion. I
Yeah.
just, I don't know.
What about Chernobyl?
What about it? You know, they always talk about Chernobyl as like, they have these urban explorers now that you can go
Yeah.
on YouTube and follow that
Yeah.
go through Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Luscious green fields, beautiful
Well, I mean, not
forests. There's no, hold
to your
on,
point of
hold on.
yeah, yeah,
There's no three-eyed wolves and double-tailed animals. This lie that they told everybody that they couldn't go there because there would be mutated fish and animals and the radiation levels would be through the roof. That's not
yeah.
true. Radiation's
Well,
everywhere.
yes. All right. So I think that yes, that's true. That there is not there that maybe the level of fear around mutations to a degree that there would be 3 eyes and 2 tails. There are mutations existing in places like Chernobyl, but that there's adaptation to that mutation. And I think to your earlier point that Earth will be fine no matter what happens is that we're harnessing a natural to a certain degree, which is, you know, atoms and doing things, but doing it, you know, kind of fucked in a fucked up way. Nature responds in a way that's just like, okay, yeah, we can adapt this into our evolution. And to your point that there are thriving ecosystems there, but there is still presence of nuclear radiation, but not to the degree that maybe you're saying that we've been told we should be so fearful of.
Yeah, I don't think I think they've really made radiation the boogeyman. I mean, we use it to treat cancer. I mean, I'm just saying. And then if you listen recently, Elon Musk just came out and said that these radiation levels that supposedly were affecting the oceans in Fukushima were all bullshit. He said that, this is supposedly one of the smartest guys in the world with all the resources at his disposal. And he's saying, I'd eat the fish out of there. Remember, for a while they were saying that the fish were toxic and that we should limiting the amount of fish we eating or seafood from the.
Yeah, but then who's the one who's saying that? Like what's the
All
motivation?
these three-letter organizations, the EPA, who knows what their motivations are? The FDA. I mean, can we believe them anymore? Are we believing the FDA anymore? I know I'm not. Are you an FDA supporter after this whole COVID thing? I don't think they were being too honest.
No, I know. I don't want anybody telling me anything anymore.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like you got to start critically thinking for yourselves. And again, it's hard. You have to let go of your entire belief system for your whole life and hit a giant reset. Flat Earth brought me there. And when you start looking into, I mean, everything is a narrative and spun as a story for control and power. The Earth system itself, starting there and then backtracking. Nuclear bombs. I think North Korea might be a paradise. I think they might be lying about that. Huh? We don't know.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean,
Dennis Rodman seems to love it over there.
I'm not going to keep quick to saying like no, because to share something that I've been questioning a bit is, just propaganda in general. But I was thinking about China and how we have such an immense amount of propaganda in America against China and how horrible it is. And I'm not gonna. I've been there. I've backpacked through China and I've seen levels of poverty and levels of kind of just degradation in what when I came back to America, the things that I was suddenly grateful for that I never considered was infrastructure and sanitation and things like that. But all that being said, I know that there's also a level of propaganda that gets put in our head about China and how we'll tell you what you should believe about this country. And then I have a personal relationship with the manufacturers who make the products that I put out. 99% of them are in China, and I'm dealing with, I talk to representatives and they're always like, hey, we'll get started. We got a 2-week holiday coming up. Like constantly, always like, you guys motherfuckers are always going on vacation. You don't hear about that shit. We don't get a national, like we got our national, whatever, Lions Day coming up. We got 2 weeks off. I'm like, you don't hear about that shit and we don't get that shit. So I'm like, okay, that's to your point. It's just like, okay, that doesn't seem to align with what I know I've heard of this country. So question everything.
And the U.S. is its own. You're talking about like ecosystems and like pretend there's a dome over the U.S. The U.S. wants to scare us about that. You're a world traveler. I know a lot of people that haven't left the United States out of fear. I'm not. I remember last year I was going to Mexico. You're going to Mexico? The cartel are there in the whole country. Mexico is huge. I mean, there's plenty. And I went multiple times. No problems. And you've been all over the world. I think they again, fear-mongering. It's a lot easier to control your own citizens when they don't leave and they experience the world and they experience other cultures and they see that other people are not our enemies. I mean, you can get into a lot of cultures that are being demonized, but I'm just going to bring one up, the Muslims and the Arabs for a while. I mean, still to this day, when I was a kid, they weren't a problem. They worked at convenience stores and they were hard workers, and then all of a sudden they became terrorists. And that was like I feel like the media in the U.S. put that in everybody's head that when you see an Arab person, you immediately associate terrorism with that.
Sure.
That came out of the media. They created that. That was fear-mongering. Yet when you see Westerners go over to countries like Iraq, and I have friends that are of in that culture, they're the most hospitable people in the world. That's part of their culture to bring you into their home and give you bread and water. Like that's, but we're told, no, these people are scary. Stay away from these areas. Don't go. It really makes you wonder, and it opens your eyes. That's why it is really important to also travel outside the United States as much as you can. Be safe and be smart and keep your head on a swivel because there are dangerous areas, but you should get out there and experience other cultures and realize that it's a big world out there. And it's flat as hell.
Sorry, I got a little situation here. Yes, I agree, and as I get older and I find myself I mean, with your help immensely, is to just stop and don't immediately go into what you've been told, and just pause for a second and have a moment of critical thinking. And I think that a lot of it is hard for people because of the motivation, or the wondering of what the motivation is. And I think power is like, you can just use one word. Of course, like, it would be so beneficial to a country to make every other country scary, because what does that do? Well, what doesn't that do? That keeps citizens at bay, keeps citizens here, keeps whatever money in the economy, just all the ways. And so I think that it's pretty fucking simple when you can boil it down. And the why, it doesn't even matter anymore, because it's so many whys as to why we'd be propagandized. And there's never been a period throughout American history that there hasn't been some intentional information being put in. You don't get the truth.
No, and they take advantage of the human spirit. Most people are good people. Most people are good-hearted people. That's the hardest part they have. Why would they do this? Why would they lie? Why would they lie about going to the moon? Why would they lie about nuclear bombs? Why? Why would they lie? Why? Because they're demons. This is a spiritual war going on. We're dealing with reptilians, draconian demons, blood-sucking, baby-eating demons at the highest level. That's really what it is. They're satanic. And they use our weakness to their advantage. They know that people aren't going to push back. They have the bigger guns. People just want to, like you said, they put us in the hamster wheel, the working bee, bread and circus, keep us entertained just enough, keep you at work to keep your mind, don't worry about these things, keep you confined, don't go outside the U.S., just like we talked about, and then they control you. And then whatever they're doing behind the scenes, again, what their final agenda is, I don't know. Maybe they're preparing for a nuclear war. But I don't want to leave that subject real quick, because I just want to talk about one thing. I'm just going to end the nuclear thing, because I don't really have a lot of information on the nuclear thing. It's more of a question, I would say, to the proponent or the person against this, say, prove to me why nuclear, show me something that's convincing that a nuclear bomb exists.
Well,
Again,
sorry, I think that is a position that you hold with all the topics you say, and it's getting more and more fair, because I would have historically been like, no, fuck you. It's in the books. It's on the TV. It's on the radio. I've been told by a teacher, where it's funny to just flip the script and put the onus on anyone who believes anything to be like, prove it to me.
Right. So, and then you're absolutely right. And you're really coming along. I'm really happy. These podcasts they're really, you're going to get flat before you know it. You're going to be flat. All right. We're going to get you there. It's slowly, you're getting there. But and then it's so convenient, the way that they use fear to control the narrative and keep people, like, for just give you an example, as nuclear bombs progressed throughout the years and people got smarter and the technology got better and we were able to break down videos, if they were doing these testing sites, everything's too dangerous, Why wouldn't we be able to go view one? It would be spectacular if they launched one. If they launched a nuclear, they were going to do, they did testing all over the world. If you supposedly look at these maps, is like, if you really look at these nuclear, have you ever seen the YouTube video of the nuclear bombs through the years, starting in the 40s and all the way to the present time? Supposedly it's like insane. The U.S.,
like
China, and all
where they've been set off.
Yeah, where they've been tested. These test sites. Los Alamos, the Pacific. I lost my train of thought here, but as they progressed through the years and technology got better for the average person to start looking into the films, again, if they were going to have one of these testings, why wouldn't they say, hey, let's gather around in a safe distance, and so you guys can all experience and see the power of the United States, but they don't do that. Now, all of a sudden, as they get better and tech gets better, what happens? Oh, they go underground now. We're launching them underground. Do you know that? All nuclear testing's done underground now. Oh, look into that. We don't do them above ground. Everything's underground. You guys don't need to see nothing. We just, we still got them. They're fresh. Don't mess with us, but we're doing them underground now. So easy. They, now, before, in the early times when we didn't have iPhones with cameras and everybody's walking around with a camera and, the ability to break down videos, it was, we're doing them out in the open, in the desert. We're doing them over here in the ocean. We're doing them in space. We're doing them in the air. Now we're doing them underground. So they're doing them everywhere. But the world is not loaded with radiation to the point where we're all sick. I mean, we are all sick, but you would think that the amount, when you look at the map itself,
Yeah.
it's an interesting YouTube video because it just basically smothers the entire Earth in nuclear bombs from testing sites. Why aren't we just loaded in radiation and
Well,
everyone?
I'm
I
sure
mean,
you could
maybe.
probably find another map that shows the proliferation of McDonald's throughout the world. That's what this really is. It's nothing to do with the nuclear bombs.
You're not wrong there. You're not
A friend
wrong.
of mine, mentioned, and I'd never heard this, and I meant to look it up. But speaking of which, Ryan and I both have matching my brother's brother sweaters on, and it says "Look it
Yeah.
up." See, they're dope.
Yeah. If there's a high
Obama
demand.
put a nuclear bomb on the moon, or shot a nuclear bomb at the moon. You know anything about this?
No, I do know about Operation Fishbowl, though. Do you know about this?
No, go in.
Well, you can type it in Operation Fishbowl, and basically, if you believe in nuclear bombs, which I don't, but supposedly the U.S. government launched a nuclear bomb into the atmosphere where flat earthers believe they were trying to destroy the dome.
Yeah.
And they knew about a dome, and weirdly enough, they weren't able to get it above a certain elevation, and the reaction they experienced, you'd have to look at the paperwork. There's all the documents are online. It's called Operation Fishbowl. There's a lot of coincidental reactions that happened during that explosion that you can correlate to an actual dome being there. Very interesting stuff. And just real quick on the dome, a couple episodes back, I forgot to mention. I wanted to mention another video that I'd like people to look up because I don't know if you did, but it's an amateur rocket that gets launched by a gentleman who had a lot of money, and he was able to launch this. I think they call it the Go Fast rocket, and you can type that in. And very interesting. He loaded the rocket with tons of GoPros, and he had an altimeter on it, all this gear that basically tracked the rocket, how high it was going, how fast it was going, all the data. Gets to a certain height. I forget what the height was. It was way up there, and all of a sudden, boom, and it hits something, and there's audio on the recording. Strangely, it sounds like it's hitting a glass object, and then it just stops, and the altimeter stops at a certain height, and it's just rotating there, like it's almost pressing against something like this and not able to move. The exhaust on the bottom of the rock is propelling it up, but it's just sitting on this whatever's there. Now, you can't see up or what's there, but very interesting video, and nobody has been able to explain that away.
Yeah, you did send me that one a number of years ago, and it's like, yeah, if you're looking for evidence and you believe a theory, then yeah, that's a slam dunk. Like there's no of course anyone could explain that away and say it's fake or it whatever. Any way to just kind of shit on it, but if you're looking at it as like this is some slam dunk evidence, it's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any slam dunk evidence on either side. Listen, I lean towards more flat Earth, but you can't prove to me either, really. I mean, no one's able to. I just think the evidence and the common sense leans more to a flat Earth and that ecosystem. I just don't think the heliocentric round Earth. I think it's satanic. I think they're using it to control it. It's a prison planet, and if they can deny you the ability to understand your own existence, that is the ultimate control over a human being. As a human being, you should be able to understand where you exist in this life that you're in. And if you don't even understand that, how do you know what's beyond this life or what's before it? How do you rationalize anything? If you're being sold a lie, and the biggest lie there is that we're spinning ball through infinity and you're insignificant and you just came out of some cesspool of organisms and slithered up some beach and turned into some amphibious, and then all of a sudden you're an ape, and then all of a sudden we're here on a podcast talking about all
not
this
all
stuff.
of a sudden, tens of millions of years.
Well, that's what they say.
Yeah.
Tens of millions of years. Well, where's all the evidence evolution leading up to there? Where's all the intersect bodies in between the from a fish? Where's the fish man walking around?
Well,
where
it didn't get preserved.
Oh, so all of that disappeared. All the fossil records of that disappeared, and here we are.
I don't know, Ryan.
Oh, I'm just saying these. I know it's very frustrating. These are systems that are created.
Yeah, I guess I don't. Yeah, I've heard that term "prison planet" before, and that's just kind of the basis of keeping people disempowered, that it's we're living in an artificial reality that's been manufactured by demonic forces to keep us suppressed.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got it. That's it in a nutshell. But then again, they have this viral video going around right now of supposedly the smartest man in the world. He's got an IQ of 210. Have you seen this guy? I mean, his IQ has been tested and it's confirmed. It's an IQ of 210, and I get, supposedly one of the highest in the world. And they asked him, "Does God exist?" He says yes, and then he gets into a really interesting way of describing God. It's almost like you did, like a part of a reality, part of a consciousness, a fabric. It's not a being per se, but it's, God is more of a fabric of consciousness, I guess, is the best way to describe it.
What he said earlier, to an energy.
Yes. Yeah.
Why would it take the form of a man? Like, that doesn't seem right. That seems very self-centered for that to be the case.
But then God did say he created us in the image of himself. So what does that mean?
Well, did he say that, though?
I don't know. I wasn't there. But it said that that's what was said.
I know, but I think that could be potentially interpreted in a different way and not literal. Like, yes, I have two eyes, a nose, and a dick. Like,
whoa, hey.
Oh, hey, I'm just saying here.
But why did you go straight to that? There's so many other body parts, anyways.
2 eyes, a nose, and is there a mouth? Sorry. Yeah. Alex Gray, the visionary painter.
Yeah, I like him.
So he does a lot of stuff that to take the task of trying to translate psychedelic visions into fucking a canvas, he does, I think, the best job of what I've seen. And he shows like this, again, we'll use the word fabric, but like these kind of temples, this like architecture, this kind of, and it has a moving, like an energetic quality to it. This is like vibration and all these things. That's what I've experienced when I've experienced anything close to God, where it's never, like I said, I never have like a vision of formed bipedal thing. It's just like, it's often, it's spaces. It's like, it's so take yourself out of this vessel and just put yourself into the fabric. And again, just using limited words like walls and, ceilings and stuff. But at least some of these like mosques in the Middle East that do these like insanely intricate tile works that you're like, that is a fucking DMT trip right there. Like, that is perfect representation of it. And around, I'm not going to pretend to know anything about the Islamic faith, but I know that do they not have like a God per se? They have like Muhammad, who is, pardon me, anyone who's actually knows anything about this stuff. But to me, the representation of it through a temple means so much more to me, to like go into a space and not like go into a space and then there's ripped abs Jesus on the cross. Who you're praying to. It's like being in that space, in that temple. That just, I guess, just personally, that resonates with me more because it's just.
Yeah, but some of the Catholic churches are amazing.
That's
cathedrals,
true. Yeah.
The cathedrals over in Scotland and Ireland are just the architecture there. I think any religious place is, they put the utmost work into it. It's beautiful. I mean,
I guess the idea of temple, like temple is that can be more like the vessel, like we are the temple. And we are the kind of we are the church.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
The God inside of that church is our consciousness. So we are temple, just body, flesh. These are the walls. This is the roof, my head, and then inside of that is the soul, the consciousness, the God within that temple. So
I like that.
I like trying to do metaphors when you look at things and you try to not take religion ever like literal and say there's probably a deeper, more. I would lean more towards a psychedelic interpretation of most of that stuff. But it's just like it's trippy and you want to have it like people want to when you want to sell that to somebody or you want to pass that knowledge on to somebody, it's easier when you make it more simplified and you say like God, the body of Christ, and like all these very literal things where it's just like, I think that's wrong.
Yeah, I think when they give the body of the Christ and what is it, the blood. The wine represents blood, right? Remember we went to church and they used to do that. We got in big trouble because we brought the wafers home and put peanut butter on them. I know. We were kids. We didn't know. Okay? God forgive me.
Like that,
all right? Okay. But you know, instead of doing Body of Christ, it should probably be a hit of acid, and each person gets one of those,
Yep.
and then you go back to the pew, and they lock the doors, and you just chill out,
Yeah.
and you know they go through the hymns and
Hmm.
go to church on acid. I bet you'll see God real quick and realize that there's probably a connection there. You know, I mean, it probably gets you there a lot quicker. I mean, and help
Well,
you
yeah,
out a little bit.
because you're actually connecting to what I think is an internal experience, which is again, I think that, pardon me for sounding sacrilegious, but I think we're all God. We all are. If you're talking about he was created in the image of man, then that means we're kind of all part
Yes.
of him. And I think when we talk about this all the time, but just the power, the power dynamic of like making it a pyramid and saying it's all at the top, and all you, if further down you go, the less power you have. Or if you just like flatten it out, make it flat, where we're all equal in all of this, we are all representations of God. And then it comes back to kind of the biocentrism of like we are creating our own realities. And that's why, like, we talk, you and I, like, what are your thoughts on prayer? Like, what does praying do?
I think it's a collective consciousness of people when you pray together. I mean, individual prayer, I think, it works, but it's weak. Not weak in a disrespectful way. I think when you have collective praying and a collective consciousness, I mean, it's funny you said that. I just watched this documentary, and I know it's a taboo subject right now, but over in, I believe it was, I want to say Israel, they had a drought, I think back in 2018, and they didn't know what to do. It was very dry over there, and it was getting to desperate times. And they had their head religious leader of the state or country or whatever come out on the television and ask everybody to come out and have a group prayer. 3 days later, torrential downpour. Now you could just say it's coincidental, but there's other stories of collective praying and healing people. You know, miraculous things happening when groups of people come together and they all pray together. I think it works. I mean, I think people have made it corny by, online and, with the praying hands and,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there's something to it.
Yeah.
You got to be sincere about it. I don't think you can just say, oh, I'll pray for you. I mean, you have to really dig deep, and that's hard because you have to let go of your ego. And
Mm-hmm.
people only seem to pray when they are in desperate times. Maybe you should be praying during happy times too. When you're in your car and everything's going right and you're headed out to see your friends and you're going to have a good weekend, thank God, I mean, or thank the creator or thank the fabric of space and time. Thank something's out there looking out
Thanks
for you.
somebody, for Christ's
Yeah,
sake.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So don't just do it when you're down and out, I mean, I understand that's what you're going to grasp to, and it's important that others are there for you in your corner praying for you in times of need, but you should also do it when you're also, you know,
Flush.
doing well.
Yeah, I think I don't have any experience, and it's an interesting idea to consider the idea of like group anything. I think there's some rationale to the idea of there being energy in more forms than just one person. But I think for me, when I think about prayer as a source of getting yourself to something like God, I want to be a better person, just generally speaking, or I want something in my something in my own personal life that I want to achieve, and I try to do that through prayer. I think that there's an immense power in the placebo effect of if you're believing that some divine force is going to do that for you, then you've just made that happen for yourself, and you will then be the one to do it. Because when prayer becomes disempowering, where you're like, yeah, I'm giving it up to God, and if God decides to do it, well, why don't you do it yourself? There's an amazing quote, and I don't know who said it, but God helps those who help themselves. And I love that because it's going, please, God, help me. And God's looking at you being like, do it yourself. Like, you have the capacity to do it. I'll be here to tell you I love you and I support you, but I literally can't help you go to the gym tomorrow morning if you're not going
Right.
to do that yourself. And so God helps those who help themselves, I think, is such a empowering way to just be like, praying can then just be like listing out your intentions, getting really clear with yourself and what you value and what you want. And then it's up to you. But like, it's a little, I'll speak out of turn here. It's a little delusional to think that you can put it up in the air and that something's going to happen without, at least not without some of your own fucking action.
Well, what
God,
about the people? What about the people that can't help themselves?
tough shit.
You can't say that. There's a lot of people out there that are not mentally
Well,
capable or physically capable of helping themselves. Is God looking
what are
down
they?
at the
What are
kid?
they asking for in that? Like, what are you like?
God, I want to walk. I'm paralyzed. Please, I want to walk.
There's nothing I can do
Help
about
yourself, dude. Start. Don't skip leg day.
it. Nobody can help you walk if you can't walk.
God can support. This is the conundrum because He can do miracles if you believe, enough and you pray enough. And why do you think you see these evangelists hit you in the forehead and you're out of a wheelchair and you throw your crutches away? I mean, I know that's all fake but there's something to that. People believe that a higher
Yes, because
power could
no,
create
they believe in
miracles
them.
simply through prayer
Yes,
and
but they're
commitment and
having
money.
that's again turn God back into yourself in that and saying that you're turning on the God-like capabilities of being able to do anything. It's not
True.
there's no exterior force doing that to you. You're doing that to yourself. And I think
That's true.
that's where it separates, where again it's like where when religion was a you pray in your wherever, in your home, in your temple, in front of your altar, and then it got taken away and he said, no, I'm sorry, I'm going to take that away from you and I'm going to put it in this priest or rabbi's hands. Come see him, pay your tithes, put the money in the basket, then we'll give you the miracles. We've always had the capacity and ability to be gods, and that was taken away from us.
All right, that's a good way of putting it, and I totally agree with you there. What do you think about, in the same context, manifestation? If you believe that thought and ideas are energy and connected to consciousness, and everything's on a frequency and vibration, can't you manifest positive thoughts? The older I get, I feel like I've experienced it myself, especially in my life now on a personal level. I'm in a way happier place, but I created that. I manifested it, I feel, through thought. I mean, I feel like it's like going to bed at night. If there's something that you need, I don't know, your car's broke down, and you're worried about that all week. Just think, I know it's as corny as it sounds, but manifest it before you go to bed that I'm going to either get it repaired or something's going to come into my life to resolve that issue. I don't know what it is, but that always seems to come to fruition. That always seems to happen. Like, weirdly enough for myself. It may not happen tomorrow or the next day, but if I just stay on that course of positivity and manifestation, it sounds silly, but I guess it goes back to God works in mysterious ways, but I think it's tied to manifestation and, like you're saying, doing it yourself, thinking positive. If you're in a dark place all the time and constantly negative, and I know people out there that are like that, you can see them on social media. They treat like Facebook like a diary, and they'll put just a vague post, and boy, today was shit. You don't know what they're talking about. They're looking for you to comment, but
Yep.
you notice that person every single day is a bitch and a gripe.
And
I don't,
wouldn't you know it? It's the tomorrow's shitty too. Like,
right.
wow,
That's why I
you're
almost want to
releasing.
reach out and go, start posting. Today wasn't that great, but tomorrow's going to be
Yep.
awesome. And
Yes.
manifest that into your life. And I know when people are on hard times, it's a lot easier said than done, but you just really got to focus on that. And that's why I think family and loved ones are really important, because they're going to help you get to that spot. You don't need money to feel good around people that you enjoy being around.
Yes.
Those are the best times that you're going to have, and the memories you're going to create. So stay positive.
Well, excuse me, to your I'm really suppressing something here. I think I got COVID.
Oh no.
To your point around manifestation, and I think the important aspect of manifestation is releasing any attachment to the outcome. And so you say, my car's broken down. I am open to however that's going to resolve itself. And then, wouldn't you know it, something happens in the least expected way. Now, if you say, my car's broke down and it needs to get fixed by a guy named Larry tomorrow, he needs to use an hour. Like, you set up all these ways of getting in the way of it. And if it doesn't
Yeah.
go that way, then, oh, motherfucker, it didn't work out again. Look, I was right. I knew it wasn't going to work out. So to put out in a vague way of like, I'm happy, and I'm gonna continue to be happy, and I don't know how that looks. Like even just happiness or joy. Like I have had the past few years of my life, some of the hardest things have ever happened to me, and in spite of that, have remained joyful because I could turn that into saying, "Look at how much shit happened to me," instead going, "Man, look how fucking happy I maintained throughout all this time in my life." Like, and then that, wouldn't you know it, that just keeps generating, and so it is just about, like you said, feeding into the positivity and not. Because our egos love when we have it, when we get it right. Like, see, I fucking knew it. I knew it. I knew that shitty thing was going to happen again.
Yep.
And the ego's like, yeah, that's right. We knew that, didn't we? And it just
Yep.
keeps happening. It's fucking. It's a self-generating situation. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think that going back to consciousness, that I think thought, there's substance there. I feel like there's something in the ether that thought is powerful. Your thoughts are, there's substance there. There's a frequency there. There's a vibration. Because material things don't just manifest out of anywhere. The idea or the thought or the seed has to be planted first. From the beginning of the time, from the invention of the wheel didn't just appear. Circles are not just in nature. Well, they are in nature. I think it's 90-degree angles that are in nature. You get what I'm saying? There's not just a wheel sitting in a field. Somebody had to think about that and then manifest it through their, through physical means. But the idea has to be there first in anything. What we're talking on now, it all had to be thought through. So those ideas are on a frequency, they're on a vibration, and if you're vibrating at a low level, at a low frequency, you're going to get low level, low frequency feedback coming back to you. So vibrate higher and and keep that frequency high. Do things in your life. Like, one of the things, I know it sounds corny, but I got out of doing is I stopped watching Forensic Files, and I stopped watching these CSI shows where people are dying and they're trying to figure out, because I just felt on a subconscious level, even if it's background noise, it's negative. It's people dying on TV. I don't want to take the space that I have and allow that to enter into my brain, a vibration. Again, you're going to say woo-woo, corniness.
No, not
But
at all. I'm with you.
everything affects you, and everything affects your subconscious. When you start surrounding yourself with positive people, even the music you listen to, just be careful of some of the music you're listening to. Be careful some of the movies you're watching. You get into these horror genres, and how much slash, and I know I watched the Saw movies when I was a kid. I recently saw one of those. It's murder porn. I can't believe I even like that crap. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, as an adult, I'm like, this is what we're absorbing into our consciousness. And I think it's done on purpose when you start realizing
really?
stuff.
The fact that there's like 13 saws, that's not like intentional shit there. Or the fact that Law
And
and
who's
Order,
watching these?
The SVU has been on for 28 seasons, like, yes.
Yes, exactly.
I rewatched the other night. I rewatched Casino because I kept thinking about it.
Oh, I love
I
that
remember
movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie, but I don't know. I don't want to throw Martin Scorsese and say he's part of the thing and he's putting out shit, because he's telling like real stories of shit that happens. But that was, to your point, I was just like, oh my God, man, maybe I don't have the stomach for that shit, because there's some rough scenes in that. Yeah.
That was more of a real life, though, like you were saying, a storytelling of what happened,
Yeah.
But
But also, you don't have to watch those stories. There's not.
no, and again, surround yourself with higher vibrational things. And there's actually, and I don't know the frequency, but I started getting into, and I'm going to screw this up. Is it tangorial beats?
Binaural beats.
Binaural beats. I don't know where. Tangiral is something else, I think.
It's an Indian restaurant.
Oh. But binaural beats, they operate on a certain frequency that's supposed to stimulate your consciousness in a positive way. It's supposed to do good things for you. I don't mean,
And why
so I'll
wouldn't
put
the negative be the same?
Right. I mean, and there's an interesting, we don't have enough time to get into it, but there's an interesting thing in the music industry, if anyone's into music, and I didn't do a deep dive on this. I just casually, hit the surface on this. But apparently in the music industry, music's recorded at a certain frequency, and I want to say it's 30, what do they use, hertz? 30 hertz, I think.
It's like megahertz, yeah.
And that's at a negative frequency when it's in line with the human body, and that the actual optimal frequency is a 40 hertz, and that creates a more positive experience to the listener. I don't know exactly how it affects you, but I know it's not good. And when you start looking into sound and what it can do, I mean, did you hear about down in Cuba when the CIA was down there and they were being affected by these sound weapons? Do you remember that story that
Yep.
hit the media and then kind of went away?
Yep.
You know, so
Causing like
we,
nausea and just a
yeah,
feeling of unease and anxiety and yeah.
yes. And, sound is a powerful tool. And, there's speculation they use it to help build the pyramids and move objects. You can get to a frequency that can manipulate matter. I mean, so again, what you're bringing into your ears and your brain, just make sure you're on a higher frequency, a higher level. And that doesn't mean you can't indulge in some of the other things, but you just want to limit everything in moderation, including moderation. My life turned around for the better when I eliminated the negative people that were in my life that were creating headaches for me, surrounded myself with like-minded individuals that were into the same things that I'm into, and getting away from the things that I thought were innocent, like murder TV, and I still dabble in some crazy videos that hit my Instagram feed. I can't help that. I'm not going to look away if they're on there, but most of my feed, again, and that's another thing I tell people, they look at their feed and it's like, look at this video, look at this video. And there was someone that I was talking to recently. It's the system's designed to create anger and disdain and chaos within the user because it generates more interaction. You know this. They figured it out. When trolls and people piss you off, you're more likely to engage with the system. When you see something that you like, oh, that was nice. You just keep scrolling by.
Yep.
Well, that's the way I get down. I mean, my feed is jiu-jitsu videos, conspiracy things, and animal videos.
Yeah.
That's about it. You know what I mean? And,
God damn it. Sorry, it's very unprofessional.
no, it's okay. It's okay.
The concept
Are
of,
you choking?
not currently, of an algorithm was something that came into our vernacular, less than 10 years ago. Suddenly we all use that word way more than we ever did because we didn't know what it was. But there is an algorithm in nature, which is the same exact thing we just talked about. If you surround yourself with murder videos, you probably, not to say you're involved in murder in real life, but you're bringing in negativity where you're seeing you're talking shit about Sally at work and her stupid fucking shirt. And just like and then you only see the things that you're seeing in reality. It does not just confine to the phone screen. The algorithm works outside of the phone as well. It's a universal thing. It's the same thing we just talked about of just positivity. You will probably see more positivity if you're positive or you're seeking positive experiences.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and I think more people are going that route. I think the world's changing. I really do. I think we're in the age of Aquarius, and I think people are starting to wake up slowly but surely. I mean, even some of the things you've said to me on the last couple podcasts, your thought patterns are changing. People's thought patterns are changing. They're starting to wake up, and they're starting to think for themselves, and they're able to speak about these things openly and not be ridiculed. And even those that I talk to that kind of laugh and they go, well, what do you mean about this or that? They're inquisitive. They want to know. They're just scared to ask. And I'm not there to embarrass anyone or make fun of you. And I'm also there to laugh at myself. So I don't take it that seriously. But if you want to ask me something, feel free. Like I said, I always posted during the whole scamdemic, or plandemic, whatever you want to call it. But I would always post, these crazy videos that would support what has now become true. But I would always write, it's okay to ask questions. I would write that on the top because the biggest thing people were afraid to do were just ask the pertinent questions. Just ask. It's you. It's okay to ask when you're, when you're getting an injection. It's okay to ask that or anything. It's, what's going on here? Why are we doing this? Stop.
Right.
What's happening here?
Yeah.
And that goes with any situation. I just don't mean, over that. I'm just saying that's the term I use. It's okay to ask questions.
Yeah, I wish I had that because I didn't ask. I hardly ask questions, and I go along with shit, and then
It's okay.
Now my blood is impure.
No, you're waking up now. That's important. It was a lesson learned, and it was an important lesson that had a valuable after effect. It's now you realize the bullshit and the shenanigans, and you can point to that as being an example. When people say to
real lies,
real eyes, real eyes,
real eyes,
real lies. Real eyes, real lies, real lies. Get it right.
Sorry, you're going to say something. People will ask you something.
No, I mean, what?
I cut you off with the realize thing, and you were going
Yeah, what were you gonna say?
You were going to say something about. You're like, people ask me. I think it was probably just in the vein of asking questions.
Yeah. So that's all I got. I know we're wrapping it up here.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Good work. I came out of this disbelieving in nuclear weapons. This is like, this fucking show is so incredible because I'm just like, I don't know what it means to me tomorrow or anything, but it's like, you know what?
You can sleep better.
I don't have the water cooler. I live pretty insularly. My work is only, I work by myself, and then I put my shit out on Instagram. I post and ghost, and then I get to come on here and have this shit. And so maybe I just need to start like going to the bar and like sidling up and be like, hey, nuclear weapons aren't real, and just dropping some bombs, fake bombs.
It's funny you said that. Just real quick, I know we're running on time here. We got a minute. We got a minute or two. It's funny you said that because I was leaving my house the other day and I was headed back to work. I was home on lunch break and there were two gentlemen walking down the street and they were talking awfully loud at the end of the street. And they were in their probably late 20s, early 30s. And they're starting to walk by my house and I'm getting in my car and I hear the guy going deep into conspiracies. I mean, he's talking about Tartaria, the old world, buried civilizations, ice so bad. Yeah, mud floods, and it's just amazing to hear that other people are waking up and hearing this stuff. It's incredible, I mean, it puts a smile on my face. I almost wanted to go over there. Hey guys, come on over. What are you guys talking about? I didn't have time to do that, but
in my basement.
But now that you're on that tip, I mean, we can go on any subject. I mean, I'd really like to maybe get into dinosaurs,
Cool.
because that's a bunch of horse shit too. So, anyways, sleep on that. That's a bunch of dinosaur shit.
Well, we'll see y'all in a couple weeks. Say bye.
All righty. Over and out.
Bye.